Hey friends, welcome to another episode of the 321 Leadership Podcast with me, Pastor Jeff. It is my joy and honor to spend a little bit of quality time with you today and talk about leadership. You know, the goal of this episode and every episode is to find the current ceiling of our leadership and break through it to explore a new world of leadership that maybe we never knew was possible and never dreamt of. And then we want to find the next ceiling and just keep going and just breaking through leadership barrier after leadership barrier. Quick before we get started, like, comment, and share like crazy. Please do that for me. It's so helpful. I know a lot of you hear me say this and then don't do it, so please do it today. It's still really new resource, and so I want to spread the word as far as we can. And when you comment, please, there's two things I'm looking for in comments. Number one, just knowing that you paid close enough attention to comment lights me up, absolutely lights me up to read your comments. Number two, comment a leadership idea that you'd like me to talk about. I would love to hear some ideas from you that might be different than what I think on my own. And man, when you subscribe, oh my gosh, I can't tell you how happy that makes me to see people like content enough to subscribe for more content. So get on that, please. All right, today I'm going to, I feel like I make this big promise about everything we ever talk about here. Today, this is going to change your life. Today, this is going to change your life. Fortunately, so far, every episode I've had somebody, I think, tell me that changed their life or their leadership. And so, but this one, I don't think it will just change your leadership. I think it will extend your leadership. I think it will extend the longevity of your leadership. I really do. I think it'll extend the lifespan of your leadership. What we're going to talk about today, and it's a two-part episode, part today and then part a month from now, we're going to talk about the danger of chasing easy. And what I want to do throughout this two-part episode is to just help you get some new ways of thinking about leadership that no longer involve chasing easy. I believe chasing easy is one of the most painful ways to live life and to live in leadership. And I think a lot of us do it accidentally. I say this as often as I get to in my preaching ministry. I say, life will always be hard if you assume it was supposed to be easy. Kind of an oxymoron there to some degree, but it really has a lot of wisdom in it if you stop and think about it for a second. Life will always be hard if you assume it was supposed to be easy. There's so many studies that show how much more people can endure if they expect it to be hard rather than if they thought it was supposed to be easy. If they planned on enduring for a little while rather than thinking it was just going to be easy, they're more prepared to endure because they told themselves they were willing to endure rather than thinking something was meant to be easy. And so this, I think, honestly, it will extend the lifespan of your leadership. And I think it's for everybody. If you lead a church, a company, a team, a classroom, your own household, like your leadership will wear you down if you're constantly chasing ease and comfort. Let's be honest. I think to just give this some legs here, I think most people have this idea of their life and leadership because I think it's such an eclectic concept that like, there's this future version of it that's so much easier, right? And so much more luxurious and so much more comfortable. There's this future version of your life like that. And you don't maybe say it out loud, but you're like, oh yeah, if life can get like this, then it'll be so much better. If life can get like that, then it'll be so much better. But I think that can't be true because why do we see, I'm using an extreme example right now, but why do we see a martyr story where, somebody's being, burnt at the cross? I know that's a really morbid example, but somebody's being burnt alive for their faith. And they have more joy and peace in their life in the worst circumstance than some people have, while they're living in the greatest luxury. And then they are so miserable that they live a life of desperate hopelessness. Well, because I think there's some mindset shifts that we can take to find so much more joy in difficult seasons of life. And leadership, by definition, is difficult. So rather than saying, oh, I'm looking for this future version of life that's going to be easier, and thinking to ourselves, when it doesn't get easier, well, what am I doing wrong? Why does this still feel hard? Why haven't I arrived at this magical version of leadership where everything just clicks? I think we can just clear the air and say the answer to that question is you're not doing anything wrong. It might be getting harder because you're doing a lot of things right. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach you 4 mindset shifts to help you stop chasing easy. I'm going to give you 2 in this episode. And then in part 2 next month, I'm going to give you 2 more. They're going to repeat a little bit. They might seem a little redundant. That's intentional because I really, really, really need you to absorb this mindset shift because it's a difficult one to do. But we're going to stop chasing easy. This first episode might be a little softer than the first one. It might feel kind of like a softball pitch thrown at you. Or I don't know, maybe it radically just changes the way you think about life. And then episode 2 is going to build off of it and be a little more intensive. So let's get started. All right, here's the first one. Mindset shift number 1. Stop saying, if I get there, then it will get better. Stop saying that and start saying, I embrace the challenge in every season. I embrace the challenge in every season. I call this lesson number 1. I call it escape the if-then trap. Escape the if-then trap. So you probably thought this before. If I get through this next event, then things will calm down. If I get this right team member in place, then I can finally breathe. If I can just build this next system, then I can finally rest. And if we think in other areas of life, we can go so many directions with this. The reality is this if-then thinking is dangerous. I call it a trap. I call it a trap. It sounds reasonable and it might be partially true. That's why it's so dangerous, because it's partially true. You do finish the event. You do make the hire. You do complete the series. And for a second, it feels like it is a win. And it is a win. To your credit, to all of our credit, it is a win, and celebrate wins. Like pause and celebrate the win. But then there's always something waiting on the other side. There's always something waiting on the other side. And so celebrate the win while you embrace the other side problem. That's what I want to help you do is like, so if I do this, then this will get easier. Cool. But then something else might be harder, or something, like I said, something's waiting. There's so many different ways we think about this. In my situation, I've thought about it. I've thought about it with church size, and I've thought about with like numbers, how many people were in our church. And I've also thought about it in the terms of, getting a bigger space for our church. When we were much smaller, we had a smaller space. Or there have been times when we haven't had our own space. We've just been, renting this facility from Sunday to Sunday. And I was like, well, when we just get our own space, it'll be so much easier. No. Some things were easier. If we get this space, then it'll get easier. And like, yeah, cool. It got easier not having to set up every week. But actually, now we have this whole space to take care of. And it's a lot of work to take care of a space. Oh, we'll get a bigger space and then it'll be more efficient. Nope, bigger space has more people and it's way more work to take care of more people. But here's the reality. You're doing this for a reason. You're leading with purpose. There's a purpose and a mission that you support and you embrace and you live for. And so I'm not trapped in this if-then mindset. I'm just content with whatever I have. And so therefore we can not be burdened by our leadership and having to eliminate the idea of easy. One of my favorite musicians, he went from very small platform to he just blew up and became mega famous. And he has an album that I really enjoy, but there's so many songs on this album where I kind of laugh because he has like several songs dedicated to how big of a burden his fame is. Like his previous album, he's like, listen, I'm gonna blow up. I'm gonna show you guys and all this stuff. And then the next album, he's like, man, I blew up and you guys suck. Just have fun with me with the extreme language, but he's like yeah, I was so excited to be famous, and he's like, now I'm famous and I don't know who my friends are anymore, and and there's way more pressure to perform. And now I have fans who love me, but now I have fans who love me but hate me at the same time. He's like, and he's just going off. He's like, wow, fame's as difficult as, trying to get, when you have no name and you're pursuing fame. They're both difficult. There was no if then for him. And I use his example to show you, like, on the macro scale, like big picture, this applies. There's no if then. And then on the small scale, you think maybe just if you get one more person on your team, then it'll get easier. No, there's always an if then that goes to the other side. So let's give a couple more relatable examples, and then we'll move on to lesson number 2. So like, you think, like, if I just get another hire, then everything will be so much easier for our team. Get another volunteer or whatever. Well, it was like no, you just grew your leadership. You got to offload some work, and hopefully, your workload was really big. And so let's say your workload was this big, and it was an unmanageable workload. So you create a new role to serve under your leadership that takes a piece of that. And your workload got smaller, but there was more work waiting for you. In fact, now your team got bigger, and so your communication strategy needs to change because you have more people to communicate with. And you also have the new responsibility of training and collaborating with this new leader and coaching this leader and finding which tasks to give to that leader. And yeah, maybe over time that new person you appointed or that new volunteer can work more independently, which is obviously the goal. You still have a new responsibility that will be an ongoing maintenance of the relationship with that leader. Whether you're friends or not, you have that leadership relationship to continue going and continue to empower them. See what I mean? There was no if then. You add more people, and I use the church example, but maybe you're just your team in general. You need to increase your team size by 5%, and you're like, cool, I'll get bigger. And it's like, cool, running a 25-person team might be different than leading a 20-person team, right? And it's a more work in a different kind of way, even though you have more people sharing the load. And so I want you to think about a lot of the different areas, and we'll do an exercise at the end where you're like, okay, if then. And I want you to stop chasing easy, because if the goal is to say, if I can do this, then it'll finally be easy. Here's what I want to challenge you on. If all you're missing is just one piece of the puzzle, and then you feel like the sense of completion, like your leadership is fulfilled or complete, I think, let me say it this way. I think a lot of times our if then is in pursuit of a good enough scenario. And are you with me so far? I'm trying to make a complex thing really short and concise. If you can do this, then, oh man, it feels like we made it and it's complete. And all you're missing is a piece of the puzzle or a few pieces of the puzzle. There's a good likelihood that you have too small of a vision for your leadership, your team, your organization. I really believe this. Your leadership potential is so big and so beautiful, and you're so blessed that you could reach the whole world with whatever you're doing. Be the best in the world at it. And so whatever you're leading should be big enough that it's almost not possible to have an if then. If we do this, then we'll have it made. No. That means it's too small. We need 20 of this before we have it made. Does that make sense? Dream big. Don't dream small enough that if this, then you've made it. Because whatever you're leading is worth pursuing something so much bigger that one piece just gets you that much closer to finding the next piece and the next piece and the next piece and the next piece. Now, I worked really hard. I couldn't quite find the way to word that in the way I wanted to, and so I ran out of time. So I'm hoping that kind of makes sense to you. But pause for a second and just work through this. I'm going to stop chasing easy. I'm going to stop with this if-then idea of my leadership, because why? It sets me up for failure. It really does. It sets me up for failure, and it gives me a false sense of hope. That's what it does. It does, like, if-then gives you hope, but it's false hope. And it's a false hope attached to a sense of peace in a future that does not exist. There will always be something waiting after the then. There always will be. Okay, are you guys ready for lesson number 2? One more, and then, like I said, we'll do a review, we'll do an exercise, and then I got 2 more in next month's episode. Not a lot of homework in this one, just a lot of thinking about like where your heart really is in leadership. Okay, number two, see problem solving as a joy. Stop seeing problem solving as something to get done and see problem solving as a joy. See problem solving as a joy. Really going to add to this in second episode, but I want to be clear about something. Leadership is problem solving. Problems do not get in the way of your leadership. Problem solving is leadership. It absolutely is. Like, solving problems isn't the part you power through. So you can get to the real work. It is the real work of leadership. I want you to think about it like this. Your role, like the reason your leadership role exists is because something needed to be built or fixed or grown or guided. So you're not there to coast. You're there to lead. There's no such thing as, just getting a list of problems solved and then all of a sudden you eliminated your role. No. If it was that simple, then your leadership role is not necessary. No. Like, you have continual problem solving, because as soon as you solve this problem, you get to go back and, reanalyze that old problem, right? And you like scale up that old system. That thing was working and now it needs fixed more, or now it needs scaled up, or whatever. Like, your role and the thing you lead aren't static. It's not like you fix the problems and then your mission accomplished. It's like, no, it's ongoing, and that's awesome. I'm going to stop chasing easy, because I'm going to stop trying to avoid problems or eliminate all the problems. I'm going to just see problem solving as a joy, because that is leadership. So the fires that you're having to put out as your organization or your team or small group or whatever grows, that's leadership. That's part of your leadership. Solving the volunteer crisis that is ongoing, that's leadership. That's awesome. The system that broke and needs fixed, that's leadership. That's awesome. Okay, and here's the good news. You can learn to enjoy solving problems. Like, just tell yourself, like, I'm gonna stop. Like, just telling yourself this one thought could change your life. You're gonna stop saying, "Oh gosh, not again," to start saying, like, "All right, let's figure this out. I'm excited. Let's tackle this." So, and I don't mean like a surface level fake it till you make it joy. I mean like this real in your soul, like, wow, I've been given the honor of leading through these problems. This is what I'm here for. This is what I'm called to. This is what I was built for. Like, all of your problems are like puzzle pieces to come to paint this beautiful picture of what your purpose and your mission are about. But the problem, the difference between a puzzle and your leadership is it's dynamic and it's changing and growing and expanding over time. And so that's awesome. I just being funny for a minute. I was almost thinking of like really, like, sit down with a 1,000-piece puzzle and see if you can enjoy solving the little problems along the way. And I was just playing with this as I was thinking about, like, that might be my new litmus test for when I appoint leaders. If you can tell me if you can enjoy putting together this puzzle or not, and if you hate it, then maybe you're not a good leader. So just having some fun with those ADHD moment thoughts that I have sometimes. I'm just sharing it with you in an unfiltered way. And so maybe comment in this and let me know if you're a leader and whether you love or hate puzzles. Let's see if there's a theory here, or maybe I'm just being a little silly. Thanks for indulging me. But silliness aside, that's leadership. It's the puzzle that doesn't come with the box top picture. You don't get the full picture. You start with chaos and you build beauty over time, and then really, fortunately, it's just never done. You have the joy of continuing to lead. What is leadership? I say it almost every episode. Leadership is taking people someplace you're already going. And that someplace is usually a problem that needs solved, a people that needs reached, or a message that will change lives that needs proclaimed. That's usually the someplace that leadership is going. The very nature of your leadership is that it's a difficult place to go, which means there will be constant problems to solve along the way. That's not bad. That's amazing. That's absolutely incredible. One of my favorite leaders, he kind of teaches on a similar perspective or point of view. He's like, you add more value to the organization by solving bigger problems. And that's how they determine how much they pay you. And don't get lost in the weeds here. I'm not talking about pay scales. I'm just saying, like, they in the organization he's talking about, he's like, that's how you add value, is by solving bigger problems. So you get paid more, you solve bigger problems. But instead of thinking about pay scale, I want you to think about leadership levels, because most of my audience is in the volunteer setting and doing things that they love, and they love volunteering to do it. And so you still think like, okay, I'm going to lead more by doing what? Solving bigger problems and getting promoted into bigger realms of leadership. And I think sometimes we overlook this idea because our idea of like scaled up leadership has been skewed by that picture, that picture of like the fat cat CEO in the movies, the one who doesn't work and yells at people and lives the most lavish and luxurious life possible. And I'm sure some of those exist, but I think a lot of the high level leaders are solving massive but often invisible problems that most people never get to see, but they feel the effects of every day, right? Like a staffing tension that never blew up. They solved it behind the scenes. And you felt that the organization didn't fall apart and you didn't have to work quadruple overtime, everybody across the board, to make up for it, right? Or the system that worked flawlessly on Sunday. You didn't see how hard they worked to have everything flow together, but you felt it, and you would have felt it if they didn't solve the problem, right? That last minute decision that saved time and money and energy. You didn't see them solve the problem, but they did it behind the scenes, and you got to go on another day. And that's leadership. And bigger leadership, or scaled leadership, is actually just solving bigger problems. You get promoted to solve bigger problems, whether you're paid or a volunteer leader. Let me use myself as an example. I am the organizational leader at Restore Church, and we have grown into the hundreds, and it's a really fun season. And still, most people I know have no idea what my job is. There's the funny old joke that pastors, we just work 1 hour a week. And I always say we do 3 services, so I work triple overtime, way harder than you're giving me credit for. Triple overtime than 3 services. But I work a 60-hour work week, and week after week, and I spend a great deal of that time as the organizational leader either solving problems or meeting with people to help them figure out how to solve problems. And sometimes I even meet with other leaders, with people, to help them solve problems on how to help other people solve problems. And I think a lot of people think a pastor gets to just, go sit in their office and sing Kumbaya with Jesus while they read their Bible. And no, a lot of the work is, as an organizational leader, helping lots of people solve lots of problems. And, it's really interesting. I thought when we got bigger that I would have maybe smaller problems and it would get easier. I'm like, well, when we reach 400 or 500, and we're only a 50-person church, I'm like, wow, I can, in my mind, before I learned these lessons, I'm like, well, we can solve problems now. We get that big, and it's easier, you have so many volunteers, and you have some financial margin, and you have, space, and you have this and that. And I'm realizing, wow, guess what actually happened in my leadership as my leadership grew? Let's say we went from 200 to 400. The difficulty of problems I solved didn't double. So we double in people, but the problem solving didn't double. It quadrupled. Right? And I want you to think about this. If you're a leader and your leadership's growing, it's not an equal pace, like problem solving and growth ratio. It might exponentially grow. And it's hard to measure, but if you can just follow the train of thought, just the really basic principle I'm trying to talk about. I'm not exaggerating, but I don't know how to measure it, but it's like, yeah, we doubled in size, but we quadrupled my problem solving responsibility. And I'm having to solve problems that I just couldn't even fathom in a smaller leadership role. And I'm working with a coach who is part of a church that's 11,000. And when I talk to him about some of my problems, it's like he's solving problems that I can't even fathom yet. And so he's teaching me how to think about even bigger problems than I can even fathom right now to get ready for the future. And so I want you to start kind of working through your mind of like, okay, my goal isn't to get to a future easy version of my leadership. I want to grow stronger in my leadership so that I can solve bigger problems in my leadership, so I can make a more impact, so I can help more people, so I can push the mission farther. Problem solving isn't an obstacle to my leadership. It is leadership. And it's fun. And it's a joy. It's what I was built for. This is my calling. This is my purpose. I was made for this. That's how you go from good to great leadership. You say, problem solving isn't in the way of my leadership. It is leadership. And I was built for this. What do leaders do? Leaders lead. Leaders lead. Leaders do what? Leaders lead. And so we want to start walking through the same difficult moments, just with a different attitude. Even though it's 4 times more difficult with twice as many people, I love it 10 times more than I did before. I love problem solving. My goal is not to get rid of all the problems. My goal is to find new problems that nobody else is willing to solve. Because if I can solve the problems no one else is willing to solve, guess what? We can take the mission to places that nobody else could take it, and praise God on high for that. Here's what I do. What I want to do today is I'm going to just do a quick review. I'm going to do an exercise, and then next month I'm going to add, and we're going to build off of this in a way that's a little more intense. So not a lot of homework. I've been pushing you with a lot of homework lately, so you get a breather this month. And instead of just having to do a bunch of tasks to level up your leadership, you can just kind of change the way you think. But here's a quick review. We need to what? Stop chasing easy. Eliminate the idea of easy from your leadership. If your goal in leadership is to find easy, then I hate to break it to you, you are doing the wrong thing, because leadership is anything but easy. Can it become more efficient? Can it become more streamlined? Can it become more effective? Absolutely. But the goal is not to make it easier. So how do we do this? 2 mindset shifts for today. Number 1, escape the if-then trap. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions. Stop chasing the future version of leadership that doesn't have to struggle. Lead now, be real, because it is what it is. You're called to lead through it. So stop with the if-then trap. And number 2, stop seeing problems as an obstacle to your leadership. Start seeing them as leadership. Number 2 is what? See problem solving as a joy. Exercise number 1. I want you to identify your if-then. If X, then Y, right? If I can just get this part, or if I can just get here, if I can just get there, then I believed that we'll have made it. I will have believed that it was easy. And instead, I want you to rephrase it. Even while blank, I will keep leading forward with focus and faith. That's what you're going to do. Even while I'm waiting for it. And even when we get there, I'm going to push forward. There is no future then, because the mission is too big and too important to think so small. That's what you're going to do. You're going to say, I am done with the if-then trap. I've given you like 5 ways to say it. I don't care which one, but just try to find some way that you can express that you are done with the if-then trap. And then I want you to identify, is there an area that you've been stuck in? Because I think a lot of us have one, whether it's in our leadership or in our life. And number 2, see problem solving as a joy. Okay? And so I want you to reframe this. I want you to tell yourself, problem solving is not an interruption to my leadership. It is leadership. Why am I making you do this exercise? I've been saying this through the whole episode. Why am I making you say it now? Because It doesn't matter when I say it. It matters when you believe it. Right? You might listen to me talk about this and be really agreeable, and then go and start leading and be ticked off because your leadership requires problem solving. So I want you to be able to say, I see problem solving as a joy. And I want you to think about what problems that you have been called and appointed and entrusted to solve that are frustrating you. And I want you to be able to say, hey, you know what? It's a hard problem, but I am honored that somebody trusted me to solve it. I'm not stuck in problems. I lead through problems. And so that's it for this episode. Hopefully it was powerful and transformative, but simple without a ton of homework. And next episode, we'll give you the 2 more mindset shifts. Can't wait to see you next time. Peace.